Hello, friends, and welcome to Worldbuild with Us, the podcast where we create fantastical worlds with help from you, our listeners. My name is Rob Hilferty, and I'm here with my co-hosts Daniel Quinn and Courtney Staples. On today's episode, longtime patron Jay comes back with a very fun prompt. We're going to dive right into it, but before we do, remember that if you want us to build your world, like we're about to do with Jay's, you can always go to our website, worldbuildwithus.com, follow the instructions, and click on some buttons, and then we'll build your world within a timely manner. If you want to follow us on social media, we're at Let's Worldbuild over on Twitter. If you want to come chat with us about Discord stuff, guess what? We've got a Discord. Follow the link in the description for that, and you can come chat with us online. If you're feeling particularly generous, or if you just want our sweet, sweet patron-only episodes, you can always go to our Patreon with a link for that in the description and give us all the money that you want as long as it's not more than $10, because that's the maximum we're allowing. Anyway, enough with the shilling, on to the prompt. Jay says, "Welcome to the land of 1,000 dueling banjos, where music is might. Conflicts are not solved with weapons and warriors, but with instruments and musicians. Be quick to draw the bow of your fiddle, because the literal bands of outlaws won't give you time to warm up." Jay, first of all, that's a killer prompt in and of itself.
Agreed.
Like, tons of flavor already built in, very well written. This is like the gold standard of prompts for everyone else who wants to throw it in there. I just want to toss out like a big kudos for how good that is. On to his tenets. Jay says, "Instruments replace weapons and conflicts are resolved with musical duels." Number 2, the setting can take place in high fantasy, futuristic space, or even just on Earth, so long as it has a Wild West or New Frontier aesthetic. And finally, legends and folk tales say especially skilled musicians can sometimes manifest strange abilities. Now, normally this is the time where I would jump to one of my co-hosts to suggest the first tenet. Today, I'm stealing the spotlight, or just maintaining it, I guess, because I want to start mine off. Now, if you'll recall, our last series was pretty apocalyptic, pretty dark, literally scouring the planet of all human life. So my first tenet is going to be, this setting is going to be a little bit more lighthearted in nature. And in particular, I want a theme of romance to be prevalent throughout the setting. Now, I'm thinking of, there's a lot of music. There's a lot of great musicals that have romantic themes or subplots. There's operas like Carmen that evoke that kind of like passion that gets all riled up when you're doing musical things. I mean, like, come on, there's so much passion and heat, and like there's just so much good stuff that we can do with a big musical setting. And that's where I want to start us off today, folks. Jump in, give me your thoughts. Let me know how y'all feel about that.
I'm all for that. I do agree that it would be nice to have a bit lighter of a setting than our previous one. So I'm down for that. And I do like the idea of bringing in romance as a theme, because it is something that usually gets like sidelined in world building. Like, there's so much focus on war and violence and engineering and science and stuff, but very little on like that type of human connection. So I'm all for it.
And if you're looking for conflict, oh boy, romance is a great battlefield, especially when you toss in some music and stuff like that. I was thinking about like all the musicals that also have like heavy, romance subplots and whatnot. And I'm like, oh boy, there's a bunch of really good ones and some kind of mediocre ones too, with some good bangers. I'm looking at you, Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. You did not age well at all.
I love musicals.
Do you really?
Wait, really?
I sure do.
What? Hold on, wait a minute.
My mind is being blown right now.
Same here. I was not expecting that at all. I am a avid lover of musicals. Daniel.
Oh, I didn't know you love musicals.
Oh my God, yeah. Are you kidding?
Oh. Like, Jordan hates musicals, so I can never watch musicals with her.
Wait a minute. Hold on. We're learning things about each other on the podcast live. Wait a
Yeah.
I
minute.
didn't
Okay.
think you liked musicals, so I'm
Wha-
surprised.
Wait, why would Daniel? I hosted and sang karaoke for 2 years.
Uh-huh.
Why would you think I wouldn't like musicals?
Well, I mean, I feel like karaoke, there are things in common, but like karaoke is a different thing, right? Like,
Yeah, but like music in general,
Yeah.
I sang like I like love Bob Fosse and like all that stuff.
Oh, yeah,
Daniel, come
I mean,
on,
you're a
man.
stage man. There's no doubt about that. But I didn't know you liked musicals.
Absolutely. Okay, wait. I'm more surprised that you love musicals
Agreed,
because
yeah.
like you hate everything famously, but specifically you don't listen to music. Although now that I think about it, all the best musicals are like the 70s and before that. So I think that does make a little bit of sense now that I'm thinking about it.
I like some modern ones, Repo Man and what's his name? Sing Along Blog, Dr. Horrible Sing Along
Oh,
Blog.
Oh my god,
yeah.
yeah. That's like 20 years old now, I'm pretty
Oh
sure,
my
by
god.
the way.
Is it?
Yeah.
Holy
Like
shit.
Hedwig and the Angry Inch.
That's great. Yep.
Any of the kind of like a lot of classic, like obviously Les Mis, like stuff like that. The ones that are like extra dramatic, I'm super into. I do really. Mamma Mia.
Mamma Mia is great. Yeah, can't go wrong. See, I'm a big fan, like I said, of Bob Fosse. So that's stuff like All That Jazz. Not Chicago. Everyone thinks that I'm talking about Chicago when I say
I
All
like
That
Chicago
Jazz.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, Chicago's great, but you should also watch All That Jazz, which is kind of about Bob Fosse as well. But no, some of my favorites. We'll toss that in there, Daniel. I love all the Fred and Ginger movies from like the 1930s and stuff like that.
So like really old stuff.
Yeah, like I took a movie class in college, and like this was a big part of it because that was like the Marvel movie of its day. Was like the Fred and Ginger type movies. Like, well, I mean, this is not Fred and Ginger, but like Top Hat is a classic. And I thought that it's like, this is going to be a dumb musical. And then it's like, no, the dialogue is super witty. The dancing and the singing is all fantastic. I became an instant fan. I was like completely won over by it. But like Singing in the Rain is also a classic. Again, I think Top Hat's probably one of my favorites of all time. But yeah, I'm really big fan of like Bob Fosse. All That Jazz and Cabaret are two of my favorites.
Cabaret is excellent.
Cabaret is excellent. Like that, there are so many chilling moments in that movie for like good and bad reasons, you know.
I like trashy ones. I like Moulin Rouge. Pretty much any of them.
Moulin Rouge, I did not remember liking very much.
I'm easily pleased with musicals.
Who?
I'm easily pleased with musicals.
Oh yeah. I mean, we can also talk about like some of the more modern ones. Like pretty much all of Disney stuff is like pretty fun in some way in terms of musicals.
Oh yeah.
Encanto was like okay as like a movie, but a really great, you know, like fun like songs and stuff like that because it's Lin-Manuel Miranda, obviously, you know. Oh man, Daniel, I'm so glad that we got to have this bonding moment because I'm so excited to talk our new musical setting because that's so fun. Also, quick aside, Dr. Horrible Sing Along Blog came out in 2008. So
wow, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, we're old.
Wow.
That's like
what happened
in college.
Jeez, that was like just before I left for grad school, right?
Wow.
Damn.
Wow.
All right, so we've established that we somehow both inexplicably love musicals. So please, someone take a tenet, and we can kind of see how this develops a little bit further. Courtney, we have not heard from you very much, so let's start with you. What is your tenet now that we've got all this singing and dancing in the way?
Yeah, I've got to admit that I haven't seen that many musicals, but anyway, my tenet is that I'm picturing this as a space western where the inner core of planets has, musical academies and regimented orchestras, while on the outskirts, it's much more of a musical free-for-all.
Okay, so it's segmented between like musical academies and then like free-form jazz on the outside, basically.
Right. Like kind of picture like Firefly with like music instead of, yeah.
That does not surprise me, Daniel, at all. I tried. I can't in good faith tell you I gave it an honest shot, but I was like, I watched the first episode and I really wasn't impressed enough to watch more of it. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, you gotta give it a burn. I don't think it took on really fast, but it's not many. There's not many episodes though, right? Yeah.
There's only like 12 or 13.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then again, if you're not a Joss Whedon fan, then you definitely won't like it.
I mean, I liked Buffy. Does that count?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, definitely. It's got the Buffy vibe. It's slower to catch on. Like, at first I didn't really care for it either, but then I got a few episodes in and I'm like, oh, this is amazing.
Gotcha. So, okay, I can get behind like a Firefly-esque type of Western, like space Western, I mean. That's totally acceptable. But we do have like where there is a demonstrable wild part, and then there's like the ballet academy or like the music academy, right?
Yeah. I figured we'd be focusing more on the frontier part because that's what Jay had kind of wanted in his prompt. Yeah. But just to have that other element sort of in the background, and maybe they can interact at some points with the outskirts.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
That was literally one of my tenets. Corey,
thank you very much.
Look, I've got like 5 more tenets if you guys want. I can do all of this if you want.
just build the whole setting. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what. When I edit the podcast, I'll cut all of you guys out and just replace you with me.
Yes.
And trust me, I'm already sick of my own voice when I hear this, so that's going to drive me truly crazy. So Daniel, what was your other tenet that Courtney didn't steal from you? So let's go there.
my first tenet was basically like, this takes place on a space outpost or somewhere in the fringe of interstellar civilization. So,
Daniel went space with it? No way.
I know.
Well, I think we could do like space outpost in particular, like a space station or something.
But I like what you were saying about there being like kind of like more higher class sort of these schools you said, kind of like opera sort of in the inner rim, which is kind of cool. Yeah. So I like that. Maybe we can say is like my addition to your tenant is like the focus of the story is in like an outpost of some kind.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. When I love that already, because I'm thinking, because in like kind of fashion, right, where at the very tippity top, because we can always make this kind of like a political statement, right? You have like strata of musical tiers. So at the very top is like Daniel was kind of suggesting like opera or like quote unquote classical music. And then the further down you go, it becomes like a little bit more slummy. And then there's a little bit more like there's like a bunch of different types of music as well. And I think that'd be really fun. Also, it's like kind of a jab at like music snobs and stuff like that, where it's like, yeah, we can have kind of like the corrupt, like ignorant kind of upper class, and then like the low down, like where the real, like music kind of happens from. I think that'd be kind of a fun thing, especially with romance. Like, come on, how many people are sitting in giant poofy dresses and like starched up like suits, listening to this amazing music waft up from the Undercity and then falling in love with the musician? Like, there's already 1,000 different romance tales that we can talk about there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Or I mean, we can also just do a Phantom of the Opera, like type situation as well. There's so much we could do with something like that. So I think narrowing it to a specific outpost does sound kind of fun.
The tenet I have that is not that though is that there is a mysterious artifact, celestial object, or starship that is playing a powerful music that can be heard from a great distance, and it has legendary provenance.
Oh my!
Interesting.
Is it constantly playing?
Yes, and because in space it takes time to hear things because they travel at the speed of light. People are hearing it basically from wherever it is.
Gotcha. Okay, so I can we say then that the entire station that this setting kind of takes place on is that legendary thing that we're talking about?
Sure.
Can it also be shaped like a giant tuning fork?
I guess.
Why not?
I mean, like, I think that'd be super fun. Plus, like, the general design of a tuning fork also can help you like segment different areas of like social class. And
you mean the
whatnot,
whole station is
the entire
fork,
station is a tuning fork. Yes.
I think it would be neat if that's all true and where the source of it is somewhere inside of it. Like it's this whole shape of the machine, the whole shape of the station amplifies it into space, but
yes,
the source is not yet known, or it's somewhere in there. I don't know.
Maybe it's maybe this thing was discovered at some point and kind of colonized, and they're still trying to figure out where that's coming from. And like people have been searching for years and years and years with no success.
Yeah, and exactly. Of course, the music was inside us all along. Like that's what we're going to end up with. But that's fine. I think that's really fun already. Oh boy, I'm having a lot of fun with this. Okay, cool. So I guess we're going to jump right into my second tenet, which is going to be, I'm going to extend the idea that it's just like instruments and musicians to also include singers and dancers as well. So I can truly have my musical that I want in my heart. Now, mind you, I don't want this to take away from the idea that there are going to be like badass musicians who are like, like Devil Went Down to Georgia against each other and stuff like that. Or like, that scene from, or like that movie Paint That Wagon, right? Like I want that to happen. I want like there to be like duels of musicians, but I also want to be able to have singing and dancing and all that fun stuff too.
No, absolutely. It makes sense to include all of that. So sort of maximize the types of expression that we can have in our battles.
That's what I'm interested in. Little less interested in something like interpretive dance, if I'm being completely honest.
What about tap dance?
Tap dance, big fan, like I said, Fred and Ginger. Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe it has to be some music that makes noise, or noise has to be involved. So that way we can eliminate all the other arts that are not music.
Well, interpretive dancing also does have a audio component often. Like I'm thinking of like, there's a famous one that I'm completely blanking on, which is literally just like movements of every day, but like with like yelping and stuff like that. I'm blanking on it.
Sounds real dumb. So we're gonna just throw that.
Look, I can be real up my own ass about like artsy fartsy stuff, but even I can't get into like, the whole interpretive dance thing.
I kind of contemporary art. So
if anyone out there wants to convince me otherwise and has some suggestions, I'm willing to give it a shot. I want to toss that out there, but for like my love of dancing really comes down to like, ooh, look at that Bob Fosse guy move. He's moving like a snake. Look how cool that is. Like that's basically where my brain goes. So
that's it. I could kind of see that happening in like the inner planets. Like, of course they have this like very strict classical kind of vibe, but I imagine there's also this like kind of pompous part of their society that's doing some sort of snooty type experimental stuff. And everybody sort of just pretends to like it. Like, yes, this is excellent art.
Yeah, let's put that in the inner rim, because that's some bullshit. I like that. I hate that crap. Absolutely. There's even a musician who's like, their specialty is silence, and everybody thinks they're so brilliant.
Oh my god!
And I just want to like urinate on them.
That's. Yeah,
are you saying they're mimes, or are you saying they're like that piano piece?
That fucking yes, like that piece of shit. Yes. Oh my god.
Wait, what is it? Is it just like
it's literally just the musician resting his hands? He's a pianist, but like he sits there for 4 minutes and 44 seconds, and it's like dumb. It's fine.
It's one of the reasons why I left the digital arts program in my university, Stetson University. If you're listening, teaching that bullshit to us, you've cost us intelligent minds, people who would have been in your program, not for that nonsense.
It's fine, guys. It's totally. Look, I have friends of mine who like really turned me on to like noise bands and stuff like that. So I'm fine with that type of stuff. Like I'm cool with a Mr. Bungle all day, every day. Like that's not a problem. But like, there's some stuff that I'm with Daniel on. But I think like turning that like ridiculousness up and like really like making a mockery of it, I'm cool with that. It's kind of like Art School Confidential with the tampon in the teacup type thing.
Yeah. Classic.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So we've got singing and dancing and some interpretive dance, but that's kind of dumb and made fun of. Courtney, why don't you hit us with your second tenet? We can kind of figure that out. Daniel, I cannot tell you how shocked I am that you love musicals.
Oh, really? I thought it was a known thing.
No, not again. I thought that you just hate music, so I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I was expecting you to hate that first tenet that Rob threw out there.
Yeah, no, I was like fully expecting hatred.
Oh, I also like not romance stories, traditional, but I like romantic ideas. Mm-hmm. So, you know.
Well, I mean, I was in preparation for this, like with the romance stuff, I was looking up like romance movies. I'm like, there's a ton of excellent ones. Like Casablanca is a classic for a reason. The Apartment with Jack Lemmon is a classic. So it's so good. Mm-hmm. And it's like there, even something like Pride and Prejudice, you know, where it's like romance is everywhere, and there's and it's there for a reason, you know, like I was saying before, that conflict that exists within romance movies is universal, and you feel that, you know, like there's this kind of like weirdly gendered thing where it's like romance is only a lady thing, but I'm like, you're fucking wrong, man. If you can't look at a romance and like feel those feelings or like swoon a little bit as you know, as you're watching it, like, come on.
Yeah, there's some like weird misogynistic kind of vibe to like the anti-romance
a little bit
stance, like derogatively referring to stuff as just chick flicks or like like kind of shitting on romance novels and stuff. It's like they're still valid works.
To kind of toss in some tropey stuff there. I do want to find like a lusty blacksmith somewhere in the setting. I you know, like that, like really dangerous, like he's wearing a leather apron with no shirt on. Like that's obviously going to get you like scarred and disfigured. But like, I want there to be something super over the top like that, hidden, nestled within the city, you know? So yeah. Let's move on to Courtney's second tenet here. Courtney, what do you have for our second tenet?
So it was funny that you brought up Devil Went Down to Georgia, because inspired by that and also invoking some of Jay's tenet about the strange abilities, there are otherworldly entities who will tempt mortals into duels with gifts or even like talents or abilities. But of course, if the person loses, they lose their soul or die or get enslaved or something. Something bad happens to them.
That's called a record label.
Yes.
And I know that I've made this joke when we did Land of 1,000 Decibels, but guess what? It's still fucking true, y'all.
Yeah.
Those extraplanar entities, they're just the recording industry, like 100%. Yeah. Okay.
So we have entities or a force of some sort that is tempting people. In what way exactly?
So it's like kind of I'll duel you. If you win, you get like more musical talent or a fiddle of gold or some other like magical instrument, or your singing voice is improved or whatever.
You can have some Ursula from the Little Mermaid type situation.
Yeah.
I love that Devil Went Down the Georgia song.
Absolutely. Charlie Daniels Band. I heard that song so much growing up in the bars that my parents would drag me to. Oh man.
It gives us a lot of options too. Like those entities could be in some way magical. They could be aliens. They could be AI. Since it's a sci-fi, they could be I don't know, other people tricking people. It's a lot of possibilities.
I say like, why not like keep that door open, let everyone in, you know, like maybe it is kind of an industry and maybe there's like sub factions who are all trying to fight it out, you know? I could even see something like an entrance to the upper echelon as a tempting gift for those musicians who are found in the kind of city slums below, you know, something like that anyway.
Interesting.
Oh, so you're suggesting like there's these talent scouts that are doing this, like a exchange for signing on with them. They give them a gateway into the high life, the inner rim.
Yeah, I think that's one way in, but I don't think that's like universal. I think that's what most people will look to and be like, oh yeah, that's the easy one. But then to the musicians who are like, nah, I'm not really interested in that. They're like, all right, what about this fiddle of gold? Like, and then that's where the kind of negotiations start going in,
Interesting. I would like them to still be like kind of weird or different in some way.
Oh, yeah.
Like maybe, I don't know, they have the literal ability to like take your musical talent from you if you were to lose, or like they can, just something like kind of supernatural or something that humans couldn't naturally do.
I'm cool with that. Yeah.
I'm getting like a vibe of there being different things. So like it seems like there might be maybe some antagonistic group that is involved in scouting for talent and exploiting them. But I'm also seeing, based on what you're saying, some kind of supranatural thing that is giving talents to people who otherwise wouldn't have a chance. And it seems parasitic based on what you're describing. Like,
that's
it's
cool.
letting them get ahead, but that comes at a cost that they're maybe not aware of.
Yeah, like some sort of like alien race, or like the ghosts of an alien race that are trying to come back and like kind of latching on to people to do that.
Yeah. And I wonder if they're somehow tied to this giant tuning fork we come up with.
Ooh. They're living bad notes.
Oh, yeah. That's hilarious.
Oh, yeah. What if like a previous alien race had like ascended and this is all their leftover, like, the bad notes, like you said.
Yeah, I'm down with that. It's they're trying to just be good music, you guys. It's actually that might be kind of fun as well. It's like they're not inherently evil, but they're like they just music. Want to be good so bad. Like that's what it comes down to.
And it sounds like this is music that was shitty to the aliens, right? And for whatever reason has been left behind. But I think the music is still so otherworldly that even though it is shit music from the perspective of the aliens, just like from the perspective of the Inner Rim, the Outer Rim's music is shit, it enhances those who it's paired with. And maybe that's the benefit it gives to the average musician.
Yeah. And who knows? I mean, maybe what was bad music to the aliens is like
it's actually good.
Hit. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they didn't appreciate it, but the human race will.
Yes. Quick aside, I just sent you guys 2 images from Phantom of the Paradise. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
So it's a movie from the 1970s, and like aesthetically, this is exactly what I'm thinking of. When I'm thinking of these, when I'm thinking of like the weirdly parasitic like villains and like stuff like that, and these weirdo like. By the way, Phantom of the Paradise is a fucking trip. It is worth a watch if you're at all curious at it, and it is very appropriate to what we're kind of talking about here, which is like corrupt, music producers and stuff like that, like backstabbing within the music industry and all that good stuff. So I would recommend just kind of glancing at it if you're interested, and if you can figure out real quick if you're interested about that type of music. How have we not talked about Rocky Horror Picture Show yet, Daniel? Okay. Moving on.
It's classic, right? Like
yeah.
Have you been to the real quick question? Have you been to the house nights kind of that they have?
Oh, like yeah. Oh, have I been asked if I am a virgin? Oh, of course, yeah.
Right.
And I knew the correct answer was to say no, of course not, and then not get up on stage.
Yeah.
I also had a coworker of mine who used to play a riff-raff in like a live version of it. And he was telling me, guess what, guys? The cast of Rocky Horror Picture Show, they're all a bunch of freaks. They're all a bunch of weirdos and freaks, and I love all of that. So big old love to that for sure. Okay. I love the direction that we're going with this. This sounds super, super fun. Daniel, you have a tenant left, but you said that Courtney basically jackknifed it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Much.
Can we take the time from your tenant and talk about how we really get into the frontier and Wild West theming that Jay is interested in this particular setting? Because we have a mega city, and I'm not convinced that that's necessarily the type of like frontier town that Jay necessarily had in mind. I think that what we're doing is a lot of fun. I want to make sure that we're staying a bit honest with the tenets we were given.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really thinking of the tuning fork as like a mega city necessarily, just as like it was an abandoned outpost and people have gradually kind of come in to colonize it, but it's very much like just a weird mix of people and maybe sort of a not super official governing body, and there's still a lot of like frontier elements. It's probably like a good trading spot or way station for people who are traveling through. So I feel like there's still a lot of like frontier elements that we can give it.
Well, what if we flip that on its head? Like, we've been thinking about this tuning fork as being in the Fringe, and I know we want to have the setting take place in the Fringe, but there's also the romantic aspect of this, where romance usually has a longing attached to it.
Yeah.
What if this tuning fork has been recovered and is in the Inner Rim and is being treated or is being mistreated as this disgusting contemporary art object? And it's a space station in the Inner Rim that's been turned into this horrible museum, and the people in the Outer Rim can hear the music from that far away, and they are inspired and they want to make their way to it, and that way we have some kind of journey to it.
What if
that's
there are
fun.
like there could also be like multiple tuning forks, and maybe the one in the inner part is like calling to this one.
Ooh, okay.
Oh, that's
I like that.
That's
so
really fun.
They're singing to each other.
Yeah,
and that means that the alien situation could reflect the human situation. Because I'm pretty sure one of the places we can go with this is a Romeo and Juliet situation of like high class contemporary art person and a low class classic artist, right? And maybe in the alien version of this, those two forks, they're two leftover notes, you know? They're trying to reach out to each other.
Trying to create harmony, literally.
Yeah.
Okay, I love this. I love this idea that we've basically got the two ends of the worlds. And are those the frontier, or are those like the civilization hubs, and then the planets in between are like the fringe, and that's where you get the kind of Wild West confrontation?
I have a feeling it's that the tuning fork in the Inner Rim is hub of civilization and high fashion. The tuning fork on the fringe is the fringe of civilization. So like what Courtney was describing. So that one's like a kind of an abandoned Wild West outpost.
Right.
And so they reflect different like settings.
Yeah.
I'm kind of fascinated by this, and I'm not sure if this is particularly appropriate for this setting. I'm kind of fascinated by this idea of this area being like a giant, like this tuning fork that's on the outer fringes is found and it's completely abandoned. And normally when things are completely abandoned, it's like a real bad situation. There's like robots there to guard it and murder anyone who's trying to get in. Like not the case in this regard. I'm just thinking of like an incredibly large, like, you know, like city-sized spaceship that is completely abandoned, and the idea that there is urban exploration in like kind of like a spaceship, that is really appealing and interesting to me, because I feel like you can evoke the Wild West in something like that, where instead of like, oh, I'm trying to find land for my cattle, it's like I'm trying to find a place for my shop. Like I'm trying to find the best place for my, you know, like my music stand, or like my like you know, my noodle shop or something like that.
Like,
and
like, what?
No, go ahead.
I was just saying, like, what you're saying is inspiring in me an image already of a, and this is getting ahead of ourselves, but of like a story to tell, in the sense that I can see, you know, some highfalutin contemporary artist having heard the note from the Outer Rim, already knows about the notes on her little tuning fork, and makes an expedition to meet up with these outlaws, but these French people, to go and explore with them this other, you know, tuning fork. And then you have like a clash of cultures and possibly a romance possibility, but like exploring this Outer Rim tuning fork, that's where all the cool stuff can happen, because like you said, it's been abandoned for so long.
And we're also seeing parallels with the Wild West, right?
Yes,
you have
exactly.
The rich people out east, and they're sending the rich folks who have a bunch of all of these, you know, resources but with them are the people who are doing there for a gold rush. But it's like it's still a land grab, right? So that still makes sense. We could probably even add in something as well as something like oh, the rush here is for musical inspiration. Like maybe there's something that is demonstrably like beneficial to the musicians who go there and kind of like can absorb it in some way. There's some kind of creative gold rush that we can experience as we fly out to this other abandoned tuning fork, Could
also be the remnants of the alien instruments that they left behind that people are trying to get to. And that gives it that gold rush vibe. And I could also see that the station, if it's been abandoned for a very, very long time, like it's deteriorated. There are probably parts where like you basically have to spacewalk over to like the other side of a bridge kind of thing. And like, so I think it could be very like dangerous and weird in that way.
Is the tuning fork broken? And in our attempts to repair it, that's how we're going to be able to return the two tuning forks back together again.
Oh, I like that. The one that's on the outer rim, right?
Right. And that gives purpose to those who are going out there. Like, you can go out there, repair this thing, and create a new life for yourself. Find land and a place to be creative and be and literally become absorbed in this kind of creative bliss that you're creating and is instilled within the atmosphere. But then inadvertently by fixing this place up, by inhabiting it, you're also allowing this thing to become repaired and become back to create harmony once more with the highfalutin, inner ring or inner city, whatever the fuck it's called, the inner tuning fork looking thing.
I mean, what you're saying is cool because it's like, I think it's transmitting something, and I think whatever it is transmitting is out of harmony, right? And it's because it's broken.
Yes.
And it wants to be in harmony, and maybe that's part of what has bled into the ambitions, too, of the contemporary artist who's coming to the outer fringe. And I'm sure that the musicians in the outer fringe, too, know this as well, like in some way.
Oh man, this is already so exciting. There's like so many cool things that we're doing with themes and with this is just good. I'm really excited about this one, y'all. This is a feel good jam of the summer right now. It's only April, although it's probably going to come out in like May, but it's still all right. Still,
I'm getting vibes too from Outer Wilds, the computer game. Because there's like a lot of music in that game, and you can basically like, listen to music in space that's coming from various planets, and it also has kind of a Wild West vibe to it.
Yeah, that is definitely true. Even I only played like 2 hours of that game, but yeah, you definitely get that vibe real early on. That kind of Wild West and like lonely emptiness of space type vibe,
Yeah. Yeah. I am wondering though, what happens when the tuning fork is repaired? Like, what is the harmony?
I don't think we necessarily have to work that out because where we are in the story is during the gold rush of this tuning fork being inhabited. So that's for future us to worry about. You know what I mean? Like we don't have to worry about that until we get there.
It's however you intend to adapt this. Like that could be how you do your conclusion. So if this is a role-playing game, that's what you're going to play out and find out. If this is a novel, you're going to write the solution to that as a novelist, but this is the material you're working with so far.
What if it's a rock opera, Daniel? Because I was thinking,
oh yes, that would be fun. And there's like some, I can totally see that. Totally.
Oh man! All right, I again very very excited for this particular setting. I don't want to leave yet. That's the problem. I don't want to have to like recap and do some tenant work here. I kind of want to just keep. All right. Hold on. Is there anything else within the setting that we have questions about that we need to answer right now?
How far apart are these two stations?
It's a good question.
I think that considering that we need planets as way stations in between, that they're a fairly good distance away.
Yeah.
What I would suggest from a science fictional perspective.
Damn it, Daniel.
That was basically, I was asking for,
because we are in a science fiction world. The limitation that's posed, at least by the genre, is that these, I mean, unless we're going to introduce something magical, or like semi, like soft sci-fi, is that the sound, right, is being transmitted from between these two forks. And without any kind of special magical stuff like warp or whatever, they'd be transmitted at the speed of light. So that's the maximal speed for the transmission. We can decide, though, do people travel through space here at super light speeds? I would say you probably need to. Otherwise, we're going to be dealing with massive gulfs of time. So most likely there's some kind of I would suggest some kind of Wild West hyperspace train or something that gets them between the edges.
Like a wormhole kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just that the transmission has been going from point A to point B for probably thousands of years and back and forth, and they've been, in the meantime, understanding
it. And in the inner ring, like tuning fork city, that's just the one that we found first, and we just assumed that it was the only one until, guess what? We found the frequency of the second one, and then eventually found the second tuning fork, and that
would be fantastic if let's say this. So there's a bunch of bullshit artists, right? A bunch of 4 minutes and 44 seconds or whatever it is. They're all mycologists, just as that musician was, and they've done nothing useful and produced no real new art. But this particular contemporary artist, particular contemporary artist who actually has some kind of technique and talent, and they have suffered under the oppression of having to live up to the norms of the period, which is contemporary bullshit art. They discovered in the music that they're hearing the static, right? And the static is the disharmony coming from the other side. Ooh. And they're the ones who initiate this adventure to find it. And so maybe on the other end, I don't know, maybe if we want to do the romance thing, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves because we do the story bit, perhaps the outlaw or the person on the other side helps them in some way to figure this out. And that's why they go to meet that person.
I mean, I know we reference it like every episode, but 1999, The Mummy, like...
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah. Like
Look, I will never... I was about to groan. In fact, I did groan. But I will never disparage a 1999 movie, a Mummy reference. Thank you very much.
Yeah. But I do definitely get vibes with like the wealthier, very educated woman kind of trekking out and getting help from this outlaw type guy and falling in love and all that.
What I would like to do, and I'm only thinking about this now, is how can we infuse a little bit more romance into the day-to-day operations of what we're dealing with here? I'd like there to be some kind of codified means to instill that romance happens or is more prominent within the setting than I don't know. I'm just trying to like add that in there, that I want to see more romance besides like using it as like a flavoring, because that's kind of how I feel. Like I want to like see if we can add something that makes it like, romance is a powerful, meaningful thing within this particular setting.
Maybe it has to do with like family connections and kind of wooing people from higher level families to sort of get into that echelon. So there's a lot of focus on that, and that would explain the intense focus on it in the inner ring.
Instead of families, can we just have it be about the people who are in love? Like for some reason, like they're just better musicians, they're better, like more talented, or there's some kind of creative flow that happens.
Yeah.
I mean, we can even add in the family thing by having it be like families who are of opposing sides or something like that have a stronger harmonic resonance between the two of them or something like that.
I think something has to be, so I get what you're getting at. You want to infuse the setting, right, with a sense of how romance is driven in some way fundamentally by the setting. I think we can use the disharmony in some way. So maybe, yes, the one tuning fork is transmitting this music, right, that in some ways inspiring these useless artists, right, from their perspective.
Yeah.
But the reality is the disharmony in the universe between these two forks, it's made them sort of empty, right? So they're lacking romance, a true romance, true ambition, true connection with people. And until that harmony is fixed, they're longing for something. They don't know what. And they know that their lives are empty because their art is crap. Until that harmony is fixed, they can't feel the true romance. But the people who are nearer to the broken one, they feel something natural and true. Right?
Oh,
like,
I love
thank
that.
you. Yeah.
The guy with the banjo, he really feels something strong. He doesn't understand why, but it's because this broken one its disharmony is in fact the harmony they need.
Absolutely. And you feel that strongest when you're in a romantic relationship on the broken tuning fork. So like you're going to, and that's honestly a kind of a draw in and of itself, where it's like, no, you don't understand the different, like, can you imagine if someone said, hey, if you go to West Philadelphia at this particular like town or something, or this particular street, no, for real, go there. I have never felt such euphoria and such this deep appreciate. Like people would go check it out. Yeah. I don't think Philly is probably a good option for that. I like toss it out west, like maybe Utah somewhere, or Montana, where no one's in Montana, So, and I can tell from my podcast statistics that we have no listeners in Montana either. So, whatever, fuck off, Montana.
You can just shit all over me.
I mean, it's
all 5 of them. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's a way of literally literally reifying the idea that you have to be in this place at this moment to really feel what it was like to be there. You know what I mean? Like when someone says, you have to have gone on what's in Louisiana, what's Mardi Gras? Like you have to have been there to know what it felt like. You know what I mean?
Or it's also akin to like live music. Like if people who went to Woodstock and they're like, oh, you had to be there. Or even me with my snooty ass, who's like, I saw Daft Punk live in 2007 during their live tour, and it is a different. It hits different when you are there and you experience that vibe when you're in person. I mean, people who've been in the mosh pits can tell you the same thing too, where it's like you just melt away in a way that you just don't feel. And I think that, Daniel, what you've done by adding this kind of dissonant element is perfect and is so thematically appropriate as well.
Yeah, agreed.
This is fantastic. Like absolutely in love with this.
Yeah,
I'm just excited. Sorry.
Oh, I love the idea of the like emphasis on living in the moment, and that's something that the people in the inner ring have lost. Like they're so focused on performance and like or rather recited like strict performance type stuff rather than improvising and going with the flow and
the family stuff that you were talking about. Like it's almost like inverting what you're saying, because it's like they have a care about not lineage, but like what's the word for it, like the legacy of their art and how it's perceived. They don't really care about the actual art,
Yeah. And Rob, I did like what you were saying before too about like people getting together as romantic partners and like producing better music for that. And I think that could still happen. Like when you find your soulmate, like you make this like magical type of music together. And again, that's something that the people in the inner ring have sort of lost with like arranged marriages between wealthy houses to produce like the best musical stock, essentially.
And then they go out to, the Wild West, which is the broken down tuning fork, and they start hearing, like the quote unquote real music, and they fall in love with another musician, and now there's a love triangle, and that happens like every other block in the city, like every week. Like, why not? Because these people are feeling these deep, powerful emotions, sometimes for the first times. And it's like, this is going to bring it out of you. You're going to get like those situations where you feel 100%. Absolutely.
Yeah. Like I'm picturing that character that we were talking about. Maybe she's due to be married to somebody that she doesn't truly love, or she's already been married and then goes out and experiences this whole new world of music, and it's like I can't go back there because this is where I want to be.
100%.
So many people can connect with that. Like I can connect with that from obviously I can connect with that, but like you can connect with that from the perspective of like someone who's young, right, and doesn't want to get handcuffed to the future, someone who has already had a lifetime of experience and realizes this is not what they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like at different ages, you can all connect with that feeling and the longing that there is something else to be drawn, you know, to go out there and achieve.
There's a reason that the Titanic movie was as popular as it was, because that's basically what we just described, is that type of like feeling and situation, you know? All right. This is fantastic. I think everyone here is very excited. I'm going to actually step in and speak for the rest of y'all, because this is fucking fun, man.
Yes.
It's recap time. We're going to go around. We're going to talk about our tenets. We're going to make sure that they still fit. And we're going to highlight those parts. And if we can think of anything else, we'll toss those in too. I think this has been a rousing success for tenets. I mean, mine, as I said before, I wanted to keep it lighter. We've definitely done that. And then I also said that, what did I say for my second half of it? Oh, romance. And for the second half of mine, I said that I wanted to keep in the romance. We literally just talked about that. I think both facets of that first tenet of mine have been roundly successful and very much integrated in the setting thus far. So I'm very happy about that. Courtney, we next went over to you, I believe. So what was your first tenet?
That was that this is a space western type thing where the inner core is very like orchestral and classical with academies, while the outskirts is like a musical free-for-all, like literal frontier of music, which I think we definitely captured here.
Oh yeah. I'm when you say like musical free-for-all, I'm thinking like, you know, like you got punk bands, you got jazz, you got fusion of all sorts happening all over the place. You know, it's like where the really experimental stuff happens, not just like drone or like art pop or stuff like that, but you know, like that's where a lot more of the real quote unquote music comes from.
I mean, the other thing, which is kind of tangential but related, is, you know, part of the initial prompt is that even combat is somehow resolved through music. There's ways we can do that from in a science fictional perspective too, in that, say you have ships that they have to sometimes fight each other or whatever. Like you can reinterpret ships' weapons as being harmonic. Like maybe the way that you disable someone else's shields or their ships is you outplay them, and that could literally mean using harmonic weaponry. So it's like you're not going to hurt them, but you're going to disable their shields or like make them go adrift by playing the right notes. Like, so for example, you know, you can have vibrating particles, right, that technically are music in space, you know, that you can't hear, but the way it works, you know, is that it is technically music. You know?
I'm picturing like a battle stations kind of thing where like everybody rushes to their seat in the orchestra and like gets out their instruments and starts like playing very vigorously.
How do we feel about playing the brown note at our enemies? Is that something?
Right. Like, should we really resort to this? Like, it's been banned by the Geneva Convention. You can't use a brown note.
It's a war crime. Absolutely.
Right, it's a war crime.
Yeah. Okay. It's uncouth. It exists, but it's uncouth. It shall not be played.
And that's definitely very much like Firefly, because there's hilarious moments like that, you know?
Okay. I didn't get that far, but I can support that for sure. Daniel, remind me what your first tenet was, sir.
My first tenet was Courtney's, but we shrunk it by saying that we wanted there to be a focus on a particular outpost, which I think is achieved because the second fork is where we're going.
Yep. All right. So my second tenet was I wanted to expand it out to singers and dancers as well. Again, I think that's something that's just kind of like been roundly talked about. I'm totally fine with that.
I could totally take your dancers a step further too.
But Daniel, by all means, please.
Like certainly singers, I'm thinking about the spaceship battles, right? Or even like in mech battles. I could certainly see singers having their vocals be used as weapons too, but I could see dancers, their dexterity and their ability to, their reflexes might be part of how they can control, say, a mech, or part of how they can control their controls of a ship. Yeah, like their pilots, basically. Because it's a complex symphony of dance you have to perform in a starfighter to outwit the other starfighter.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I can also see something like the scene from The Fifth Element with the opera singer.
Oh, I love that fucking scene.
That movie's fantastic. We just talk about that movie for like
movie.
2 seconds. Like, that's a modern classic. For
A-class
sure.
movie for me.
Yeah,
I rarely give Ace anything. That's an A.
That is, I feel like that's literally everything you love, Daniel. So yeah, that's fair.
Only the things I love get A's.
Gary Oldman in that is so good. Oh my god, he's so good in that movie. He's probably maybe the perfect villain in that movie. He's up there, I'd say, for sure. Just the right amount of camp and menacing that I love, you know. All right. Second tenet, Courtney, your second tenet was
that there are otherworldly entities that tempt people into duels, basically in exchange of like abilities or instruments. But if the other person loses, they would sort of take them over. And, yeah, we built on that with like, we basically talked about like the remnants of an alien race that had that the bulk of them had ascended or disappeared for whatever reason, and these bad notes were left behind that were not appreciated by the other aliens.
I feel like we definitely touched upon that. I think that we can probably put a little bit more meat on the bones.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, we haven't really resolved that, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, I think I have a solution. Y'all tell me whether or not it's what we want to explore. Can we have these, bad notes, as we call them, be another part of the abandoned space tuning fork?
Absolutely.
They're kind of like natural hazards, or like maybe this is like the gas from a mine or something like that, where it's like, oh boy, these record producers just got out and now they're trying to sign all these deals, stuff like that.
Yeah, I was picturing them as like being a presence in the abandoned station, like they're just sort of floating around, and sometimes people will stumble upon them. Sometimes they're actively sought out if somebody knows that they're there and they want that power really badly,
as they're exploring this massive abandoned space station, right?
Yeah, just like some kind of ghostly figure will appear to them and like speak into their mind.
Maybe they just find instruments. And then the spirits are attached to the instruments themselves or something, like in certain cases.
Like technology of some kind.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I think also we need to mirror that in the interim too. And I don't know if it would be as mysterious, or because I feel like if we're going to have lover comparisons, like the idea that these are paired aliens, they might have some variation of that. I don't know if it's known or used in some way in the interim, though.
Well, I mean, Rob had been talking about like the record execs or the record labels who are signing people and basically like in return for maybe they've used some sort of alien technology to make that actually happen. Like, oh, if you sign this document, I literally own you. Like your soul is mine. Yeah.
And they're exploiting it, basically, the technology of that other alien fork.
Right.
They found out what it does, how it works, and now they're because they don't want to sign their lives away, but they can, and they use it under the guise as like, hey, I'm the one who can give you this power, where realistically they're just giving you this artifact that make you basically do on your own, essentially, right? Yeah. Okay. I think that works, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
All right. Daniel, for your final tenet, what do you got for us?
Well, that was our tuning forks in the end. It was a mysterious
we had to skip
emanating music, but we definitely covered that one.
Yeah. Thoroughly, I'd say.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say I'm very, very excited for this setting. I'm loving where this is going. I'm really curious as to see where the whole twist comes in.
Yeah.
Oh boy, this can go real sideways.
I'm a little nervous.
Same, but we're gonna roll some dice and figure it out, right? So without further ado, we're gonna roll some dice and we're gonna find that twist. So the twist is someone is manipulating everything from behind the scenes, and it's not who you expect.
Oh, great.
I think we can work with that one for sure. All right. So we've got our twist. We'll see you next time on World Build with us. And remember that if you want us to build your world like we did with Jay's today, again, thank you, Jay. Always good to hear from you. Then you can go to our website, worldbuildwithus.com. Follow the link in the instructions, and in no time, we'll be building your world. If you want to find us on Twitter, you can go to @Let'sWorldBuild and follow us there. If you want to come chat with us in our Discord, guess what? There is a link for that in the description. And if you're feeling particularly generous, or you just want access to our sweet, sweet patron-only episodes, you can click on the link, give us some money on Patreon, and bam, it's yours. That will do it for this episode of World Build with Us. Remember that we love you very much. We're going to get through this together. Until next week.